All right. So college majors are going to vary widely in terms of your lifetime earnings, in terms of how much you're going to make. Not all college majors are created equal. And of course, you all are in college, but any folks who come to college, you're part of the structure, right, is choosing a major. You have to find somewhere to concentrate your studies. And that's coming up here in the spring. And so if you're interested in majoring or minoring in sociology or criminal justice, make sure that you talk to our department chair, Professor Kate Luther, or if you want me to put you in contact with her, I can definitely do that. But anyways, so not all majors are created equal. So these charts look at the lowest paying college majors, the median earnings there, that kind of highlighted column, and then some of the highest earning college majors. And they've got the lower end and the higher end there too. But we see that the lowest paying college majors are things like school student counseling, counseling psychology, educational psychology, visual and performing arts, library science, and so on. Whereas the highest paying fields are things like petroleum engineering, pharmacy, pharmaceutical sciences and administration, mining and mineral engineering, nuclear engineering. We see an engineering pattern here. And also what we'll explore next week when we talk about gender is that women are more likely to go into these lower paying fields and men are more likely going into these higher paying fields. But we'll talk about that later. So one thing to think about, as we're as you're in college, is how do you pay for college? And so how might your funding sources for college tuition constrain or enable your chosen college major? So this is what I want us to consider for the end of our lecture here. How might these sources constrain or enable your behavior in choosing your major? And this is what the researcher Natasha Quadlin wanted to know too. And so she wanted to know how these types of funding, loans, family contributions, and grants are related to the majors students declare and the courses that they take in college. So in order to do her study, she classified majors into these 4 groups here. She's got STEM and non-STEM, and then applied and academic fields. So why did she do this? So those fields, those applied fields there in the top row, those are the majors that will lead more clearly into a job right after college. And then in terms of STEM and non-STEM fields, STEM fields are perceived as more demanding and harder courses and majors. So these are some of the reasons, whether they're real or perceived, in terms of difficulty and practicality, that students might choose these majors. But again, how are these choices constrained and enabled by their funding? So what she found she found some really interesting things. At least I think they're interesting. In terms of loans, she found that students were more likely to major in applied non-STEM fields like business education, communication, and nursing, and less likely to be undeclared. So these are the students who are relying mostly on loans to pay for college. So these majors do lead to these higher paying jobs right after college, but they don't have a lot of long-term upward mobility. They do have stability, but they're not going to lead to increasing incomes as much as other fields might. And so these are students who have to take on substantial debt because they're paying for their college with loans. So they may be more prone to major in applied non-STEM fields because they know that they will be responsible for repaying these loans after graduation, and because these like I said, these majors often lead to higher paying jobs right after college. If they declare these majors immediately, then they're less likely to have to be in college longer, so no extra money. However, these students may also lose out by not being exposed to a wider breadth of intellectual content, or they don't get to explore their options fully. And also, like I said, this might be a trade-off in terms of these jobs not having as much upward mobility. Students might not typically know about that. In terms of family contributions, she found that these students who relied on family contributions, it seemed to have the opposite effect for them. And so the more the family contributes to paying for college, the more likely the students were to be undeclared for longer, when she was looking at her sample here. So what this means is that students might feel more comfortable in exploring different college classes, in delaying declaring their major until they've settled on something that they like the best. Then in terms of grants, she found that low and middle class students are less likely to be in applied non-STEM majors as they receive more grants here. So this suggests that grants provide a relief for students from these less advantaged backgrounds, which allows them to choose a field that's more aligned with their interests than their financial needs. What we should also consider is that the cost of failing at a STEM major is pretty high, in terms of if you are, because of that perceived difficulty, and it's not just perceived, there's a lot of real difficulties in a lot of different college majors too. But STEM majors are the highest paid fields, they're in the highest demand, and so they really require strong academic preparation and ability even before college starts. And so a lot of that stuff is even going to happen in high school, as we saw in that video. And so if the student fails out of that major, this might mean that they prolong their college career, which might mean they need to pay for an extra semester or an extra year, summer courses, they might have to find a new major and take all new classes. And so the financial appeal of the STEM field might not be enough to attract students if the risk is too high. So overall here, she found that inequalities established at the start of college are often maintained throughout people's lives because their funding affects their college major, affects their job, affects their career. So sources of funding constrain and enable students' agency when it comes to choosing a college major. And so loans here are enabling students who could not otherwise attend college, period, but they may make decisions about what to major in without knowing, they do make decisions about what to major in, knowing that they have to repay their debt. So those subsequent decisions might really be constrained here. Whereas family contributions and grants give students a little bit more flexibility, enabling them to make more different choices in terms of their major. So funding here operates as a mechanism of stratification. All right, so we're coming full circle here, back to my take-home point. So people who start off in different social positions in terms of race, class, sex, gender, etc., do not have equal chances for success, and it is much easier for those in privileged positions to succeed. Think back to those social mobility charts. Think back to those little Lego people here. So specifically in terms of education, deciding whether or not to go to college, deciding what to major in, deciding to get a job, other life decisions, deciding where to live, deciding who to marry, if you do, deciding whether or not to have kids. These are not simple decisions, and I hope that as you encounter these situations, you will really engage your sociological imaginations. When you think about choices, think about people's social positions, how they got to where they are now, and what their chances are in the future. Ask those questions and challenge others to ask them too. So this is the conclusion of our lecture. Make sure that you complete the individual activity, playing the game Spent, by the end of the week, and I will talk to you all later. Bye-bye.